How you guys doing?
Go right ahead.
Hey, who do you see at nickel right now? And I guess what are you looking for in a nickel back in your defensive scheme?
Yeah, obviously this spring it will be huge in terms of just our evaluation of the roster and what guys are good at. There are a lot of guys that run around in winter conditioning and going through cones and things like that I'm really excited about. Rashawn is a guy I think could play in that nickel spot. Leroy, another guy that can play in that spot. We need a guy that is physical in the run game, but also can cover like a corner. It's a different route tree in the slot, and there's a lot of space and a lot of opportunity for offenses to create explosive plays in that spot. So that identifying who can help us win games at that nickel spot will be huge, this spring.
Is that somewhere you see Alex McLaughlin fitting in, or is that something where he might play safety, walk down in the box?
I think he'd be more safety-oriented, yeah.
When you look at your linebacker spot, you have obviously Jacob Manu, sounds like he's not going to be a full participant in spring. How do you balance that, knowing what X can do, what Buddha can do, and then having Jacob also is kind of like a bonus luxury at this point?
Yeah, I think, with Manu not being available this spring, it still allows for a lot of guys to get reps and for us to be able to evaluate, who's going to be able to help us on game days. I'm excited about that room. They've been, up studying more and meeting individually with coaches, and those guys are eager to get on the practice field.
How essential is that linebacker position in your defense? Because it sounds like you got 5 working defensive backs, potentially 5 up front. What is the role that linebacker plays? Is it often the quarterback of the defense effectively?
Yeah, for sure. And we'll be multiple. Like, it's not all, like, I know a lot of people are intrigued with the 5-down look. But we're going to be multiple. I think you've got to ever evolve as a coordinator and as a defense, so you're not being predictable on game day. But every position is pivotal. There's not one position that's more important than the next. Our goal is to try to create one-on-one matchups across the board. So you got to be able to hold up your one-on-one in order for it to work.
You have just 4 starters on defense that came out of the Sun Bowl. Is that somewhat of a challenge? I know last year they had just one come out of the national championship game, but it's kind of like a big turnover on defense.
Yeah, I mean there is a turnover. I also think it's a time for opportunity as well. You got a new staff, new scheme, new players. Everybody's sort of starting with a blank slate in terms of learning the verbiage, learning how we want to do things and the standard with which we operate. Competition is going to be pivotal this spring.
It seems like you guys have added some size on the defensive line. How important is that size to compete in the Big Ten in your defense?
Yeah, it's pivotal. They call it the Big Ten for a reason, and so you got to be big, especially on the line of scrimmage. So I have been pleased with just the size and the depth that we have on our interior D line. And again, we haven't put on pads yet, haven't had a practice yet, but I've been encouraged with what we've seen in winter conditioning.
Everybody's looking for a pass rush specialist. Do you have one?
We'll find out, right? I do feel really good about sort of that rushing and outside backer room. You look at body types; they're what you want. You look at the way they work; it's what you want. But again, we've just been running around cones and doing some walkthroughs, and so be able to put on pads and get some live reps. I'm excited about.
Does the Arizona transfer, and I can't say his name, does he play both inside and out?
Who are you talking about, Bobo? Tai.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a guy that we're hoping can be versatile and play the 5 and play the 4-eye. He's got a great motor and very strong and explosive. But again, we haven't put on pads yet and haven't had a live rep yet.
Is versatility a key component of your defense?
Absolutely. I think when you're versatile, it allows for you to be multiple and not tip your hand on what type of defense you're going to be playing, depending on the personnel that's out there. Versatility has value, both from a schematic standpoint and from a position-specific standpoint. When you're talking about players on the roster, anytime you can do multiple things, I think it allows for value and allows you to have your best 11 on the field at any given moment.
With that, do you believe in a lot of pre-snap, or you don't have to because they're versatile? Your players, I mean, in terms of they're versatile. Pre-snap, what's your concept of pre-snap with versatile players? If that makes any sense to you?
Pre-snap with versatile players.
Yeah, pre-snap in terms of some defenses across the league, they'll move players around, right? So that your defense is going to dictate to the offense what they call. What's your concept of pre-snap movement by defensive players?
Yeah, like I said, we'll be multiple. So we might present a 5-down look and then get to a 4-down alignment pre-snap. We might present single high coverage pre-snap and then post-snap get into split safety. So I do think we're not just going to line up and tell you what we're in all the time. I think you're asking for trouble that way. But to be multiple though, you have to have versatile players.
Thanks for answering the bumbled question.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you look at the other corner spot, across from Takari Davis, with Fisher's probably not participating for a little while, who are some guys that you're hoping are going to step up on the outside?
Yeah, Caleb Presley, this will be a huge spring for him. Leroy, this will be another huge spring for him. We're going to get some more reps. We got some guys that are also in that nickel spot that will play outside. So I think the sheer numbers that we have this spring will be huge in terms of our development as a program in order to improve just with the amount of reps that those guys will be able to get.
You look at the safety position with CJ and Alex. Just kind of what is your expectations for them? How does Markel's team fit into that mix?
Yeah, right now the expectation is to find out what we got, right? Just because CJ and Alex are here doesn't mean they're guaranteed playing time, right? Just because Markel and Vince have been here doesn't guarantee playing time, right? You got a lot of guys, some that have experience, some that have experience at other universities, and some young guys that have really matured physically that I'm excited to get out there and go compete. And it will be a competition. There's no spot that is set in stone. Our meeting this afternoon as a defensive unit, we'll talk about just that, just how your spot on the depth chart is not owned, it's rented, and rent is due every day. And that is how we'll operate, especially as a program where we talk about competition and the importance of it. That's got to show up with movement on the depth chart and guys getting rewarded for productive play and guys getting slotted down for inconsistencies. And so I think that safety room is just a microcosm and a picture of just how important that competition will be because no spot is set in stone right now.
Do you have a ringleader on defense that just kind of sets the tone? Obviously, again, I keep saying it, we haven't put on pads yet, but, going through winter workouts, I thought Isaiah Ward did a good job of stepping up and being vocal when he needed to, especially with the way he worked. And Terrell Thompson was another guy who was sort of solidified himself as a vocal leader and a guy that also, busts his butt in workouts and guys can kind of point to and look at him, for example. Manu is a natural born leader. Hate that he's not going to participate this spring, but definitely somebody that adds value in terms of communication and being a vocal leader that is comfortable holding his teammates accountable.
With Jacob and some of those other guys not being able to be on the field to have defense, what can they do, I guess, this spring to keep up on some levels, or if they are able to come back to fall camp or not, just it's all brand new?
Yeah, they've been doing a good job of this, but just staying in tune and engaged with the meetings, with the walkthroughs. They haven't missed a beat in terms of that. They're still getting extra work in the film room. Obviously, the goal for them is to get healthy, and they've been doing a phenomenal job of taking care of their bodies and living in the training room to make sure that they're doing everything they can to get back as fast as they can. And then it's our job as a staff too to make sure that they're staying engaged and not just putting them off to the side or putting them on the shelf until they're healthy. So I think our guys have also done a good job of keeping them actively involved. But all those guys that are injured right now, they're all competitors, and they all know we are expecting them to be able to produce for us come the fall. And with that expectation in mind, they're handling their rehab the right way.
It looks like Pepa's put on even more weight since he got here. He was 340, I think, originally was listed, and Jeff's roster said he was 350 over the weekend. Could you talk a little bit about that? Is it good muscle?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the way he's working, if he's gained weight, it's good weight. I think T.O. and those guys do a great job in our nutrition staff does a great job just of holding those guys accountable and keeping tabs on where their weight is going up or down. You know, he's another guy that busts his butt in the off-season workouts, and I'm excited to see what he looks like and what he's able to do when the pads come on.
He should be hard to move out of there with.
I would hope so. Yeah, we're counting on him to be hard to move. That's for sure.
How have you got adjusted to Seattle?
Man, I love it, especially when the weather is like it is today or like it was yesterday. But this is a unique place, especially in the Big Ten and in big time college football. You know, Coach Fish hit on it earlier, just with the amount of alumni and successful alumni that are in town, the amount of Fortune 500 companies that are in town, the community support. You know, my family is happy as heck to be here, and we're definitely very gracious for the opportunity to represent UW.
Have you ever coached or played at Husky Stadium?
I was a coach at Arizona. We played here, night rainy game. The atmosphere is still electric. You know, this is one of the premier locations of college football.
How much are you looking forward for the assist on third down for your defense that Husky Stadium gives?
I love it because that's one of my favorite areas of the game. So third downs will be huge. You know, you can win or lose games on third down, and to have that sort of help at home, you know, it's no secret why you've got 20-game win streak here. The atmosphere is second to none, and I can't wait to experience that firsthand come this fall.
All right, thank you, everybody.